Welcome back. Time for another build. This time, the real grade Exia. So bear with me for a second and hopefully some folks have some feedback and some opinions on this. I have been dying to do another perfect grade. I can't decide between the red frame or the Exia. And I've done the real grade red frame. Not the greatest kit, but I love the looks. Looks awesome. And there's a hobby store in town that has it, perfect grade. So, you know, I've held the box, I've looked at it. There's also another one that has the Exia, and I love how this looks, but I've never built one and had my hands on one, right? So that's why we're doing the real grade. So anyway, if you have opinions on that, please throw them in there. It's the amount of money you spend on a perfect grade kit sometimes, it's kind of like, oh, am I gonna like this when I'm done or not? So love to hear from some folks. Anyway, we'll do the usual, unbox it, time lapse, show it off, and then I'll come back around at the end and talk about it. So let's get started. All right, let's get this one out of the box. See what we're dealing with here. Got some nice yellows, reds, blues. Very colorful Gundam, so not surprising. I'm not sure about those stickers, but we'll find out. Phrase. Some whites. This decals I would expect, so curious to see what those other ones are. And of course, our real grade instructions. About 7 runners or so. I'll probably have to do some translation on this. I'm not quite sure what that's trying to tell me to do there. Some nice pictures. Our decals. So what are we talking about? 14 pages. Should be a good one. We'll get to it. So let's talk Exia for a minute here. Okay, I love the look. It is a very cool, kind of a very different look for a Gundam, right? It's not the typical ones that I do. So I do like it, which is unfortunate because it doesn't help my quandary with the whole perfect grade thing much, but we'll see how that goes. There's definitely a few things to talk about here because honestly, I think within the realm of real grades that I have done, this is definitely one of the more challenging ones. They have, if you watch the unbox, there was like a little yellow packet in there that at the time I'm like, I don't know what that is. They call it holographic parts. They're clear plastic strips. They're kind of shimmery and you end up like, you probably can't see it well here on the legs, but you end up like a silver decal behind it and then the plastic piece sets in front. They're not sticky. The ones on the legs actually just kind of wedge in. And then they, kind of give her this shimmery holographic effect. The ones on the waist are a real pain because they just hook. There's a hole in the end of it and they just hook up here in the torso kind of. And you have to hold it down. There's nothing that hooks the bottom part. So you have to get both of them set up. You have to hold them down and then the back piece going on is what kind of traps them. So that's a bit of a pain to kind of get that all lined up. There's ones in the shoulders here that aren't so bad. The shoulder pieces kind of sandwich and hold it together. And then there's just this itty bitty part on the top of the arm here that holds that end down. And then speaking of itty bitty parts, the head is a complete pain. So there's a couple of parts on it that are so small that I just had to use tweezers like for everything. I couldn't handle them with my fingers really. They just were too small. I had to cut them out of the runner under my magnifying glass and it was kind of one of those like one-shot things because there was no way I was going to be able to take like a razor knife to them things and clean them up. So I just had to trim them out best I could. The other thing with the head is there's two more holographic strips on the head that they just fit in the side of the head and then you have to hold the ends down kind of around the curve of the head as you snap the side piece on. So that just kind of overall makes the head a pain. And just kind of is part of what makes it really challenging. The other thing that was a little bit of something to keep an eye out for on it, this one had several parts where the protrusion on the part is what connected to the runner. And not even necessarily just a protrusion, some of them like the shape of the part is like square with a nice kind of piece that goes up and then the runner connects to it. And the instructions don't really call it out any, so you really have to pay attention to it. Especially it seemed like the armor for the arms was the area that was especially like, oh wait, no, I don't want to cut that, that's the part. And then you had to look a little closer to catch the gate, right? So just something to keep an eye out for. Other than that, I really like it. The fit and finish is good. In some spots maybe too good. The engine part here is supposed to come out, but it really fits in there tight. I would have to get something really to kind of pry it out. Otherwise, everything fits really nice. The shield is only held on by like a connection to the arm. The fist, there's no spot for the fist or hand to hold it. So I could see if you're someone that likes to pose and repose your Gundams and mess around with them, I could see maybe after you take this on and off a few times, that might get a little loose, but right now it's on there nice and solid. So overall, I love it. The usual question, of course, if somebody comes to me, says, hey, I saw a real grade Exia, should I grab it? I'm gonna say, yeah, go for it. A little challenging with the strips, but definitely not like it's impossible or anything. It was a fun build and I really liked how the model looks. And that wraps that one up. So keep the comments and the feedback coming. I always like to hear people's thoughts and opinions, and especially if you have an opinion on the perfect grade red frame versus Exia, be sure to throw that in for sure. And thanks for watching.